Hi guys, it's Jordan from P&P Campers. Just going to be doing a handover video on this McLouis 253. The 253 is a Lagan, is the model of this particular McLouis, and we're based on the Fiat Ducato chassis here. 2005, and so what I'll do is I'll run you through under the bonnet first, and then I'll go around the outside, and then we'll show you on the inside and show you what we've got going on in there as well. So under the bonnet, we've got your engine battery over on the left-hand side here. So for jump starting, that is where you would go for that. Looks like a nice new battery to me. We've got your brake fluid attached to the servo just down the back, just there, up here. Power steering fluid, which you can see at the perfect level just there. We've got your engine oil, goes in through this little cap just here at the top, and your engine oil dipstick is this one just down here. You've got some fuses and relays underneath this cover here, and this one here as well. Engine coolant goes in through this reservoir here on the right. Air filter sits inside here, and your washer fluid gets topped up through this little blue topped one down here. On the actual bonnet itself, you have got a little sticker here which tells you what the paint code is for this particular vehicle. So if you needed any touch-up paints, it's Fiat 249. So the diesel filling point is on the front near side of the vehicle just here. To release this little cupboard, we push on the left hand side, and that will then allow you to open this just like that. Inside the passenger door, there's not much to show, to be completely honest. A couple of fuses and relays inside this little cover just here, and some fuses just down here in relation to your leisure battery and the sort of habitation side of the vehicle just there. So on this near side, we've got a couple of things to run through. So we've got an external mains powered socket. We've then got, next door to that, we've got your electric hookup. So if you do have access to a hookup cable, it's really helpful to have that plugged in so that you've not got to worry about any battery voltages, and that you'll have power going to all of your sockets. Below that, you'll notice we've got a filling point, and this is for your LPG. So if you wanted to fill up your refillable bottles, which I'll show you in a minute, you can do that just from there. Next locker over is your gas locker. So you've got two refillable bottles just here. To turn these bottles on, we go anti-clockwise around to the left on these little valves here on the top of the bottles. And if you find that you don't get any gas coming through to the inside of the vehicle, you have got, if I just zoom in a little bit, you've got a little green button just there with my fingers pointing. And if you press and hold on that green button for a few seconds, what it will do is it will release the gas and allow it into the vehicle. What it's for is a crash sensor basically. So if the regulator thought that you'd been in a crash, then the idea is that it should isolate the gas from the bottles to the inside. So that's what that's for, just so that you know where that is. It's always good practice to turn the bottles off whenever you're not using it, and especially for when you're driving. But that's about it really. Right, these next two lockers just here will give you access to the back of the fridge. Now the fridge is a 12-volt fridge, so this one here doesn't do anything, and you've not got a gas flue going up there. So they're literally just to get access to the back of the fridge. This one just here is your boiler vent. So if you had the boiler lit up on gas, you should feel hot air coming out through the bottom of this. Other than that, that's about it for the near side. Bodywork is all nice and straight, as you can probably see just from here. The back of the vehicle, same goes for that. Got nothing nasty going on there. You've got the two-bike rack. This is a Fiamma bike rack. The centre brake light just there above the window, and you've obviously got the reversing camera up there as well, which comes on when you select reverse. So being the 253, this particular Lagan has got the absolutely ginormous garage at the back. So it has been lined at some point by a previous owner with this sort of metal stuff here, but it is just nice and strong. More than likely they would have had motorbikes in here perhaps, or something, you know, maybe other bikes or something. But having this stuff here means that you don't start to damage the sort of fairly brittle kind of wallboard that they tend to use. So that is a good thing, really. Spare wheel sits inside here, so obviously meaning that you don't have to get underneath the van on the side of the road to get to the spare wheel, which is really, really handy. Jack and wheel brace kit is inside this little holder just here. You've got some winter covers for the fridge vents. There is a hookup cable there. We don't test the hookup cables, so you are sort of using that at your own risk if you are going to use it. We tend to just leave bits and pieces in the vans that people use or have kind of made up that might help. Awning winder is this white pole just here. I have got a video on this channel of how to use one of these awnings, so you can have a little look at that if you want to. But it's all checked over on the habitation check and it was all working really nicely, so shouldn't have any problems with that at all. I will also just point out that inside this locker, or inside the garage here, you've got this black tubing. On that black tube, basically that's an extension for your wastewater drain off point if you need it. So if you wanted to plug it in and make it an extension so you could, drain your water out somewhere a little bit further away from just there, then all you need to do is plug the external pipe just there into this bit here, and then you can run this cable, or this pipe, sorry, to wherever you want it to go to. It just means that you're not only limited to dropping it out exactly where the actual drain is. So that's what that's for, just there. You've also got just in here a slightly different type of freshwater filling point. So if you wanted to put this into your freshwater filling point, you can then put a hose attachment, which I can imagine is what that orange hose there is for. You can plug the hose into this as well, and then it will just basically pump the water in from there. Looks like it's been 3D printed as well. And the last thing inside here is this, which is your external water point. So I will show you where that is on the outside. It's on this side as well. But that is your external water point just there. Right. So down here, these three things that we've got here in this one sort of area are all to do with your wastewater drain off point. So you've got two drains on this waste tank. So you've got one which is your main normal drain, if you like, which is this pulley over here on the right. So if I pull this towards me, push it back in obviously quickly, that is going to drain all of the water out from the waste tank there, straight from where you just saw it there. And don't worry about the floor getting wet here, it's quite normal. So that's where you can drain it out from there. If you wanted to drain it out just literally from that one big drain at the middle, that'll get rid of absolutely everything from that tank. Every single little bit of dirt and dust from inside there will come out by pulling on that handle. The alternative way of draining it out, if you don't, if you haven't got like a big campsite where you can drive over some grates or something to drain it out from nice and easily, you can plug that extension hose in to this and then use this handle instead. So basically what will happen is you'll turn this handle and then all the wastewater will come down through this long pipe here and then come out through here instead. So that's your two options there of how to drain out the waste tank. So the next locker is our Thetford toilet cassette locker. So to remove the cassette, it's really, really easy. So all you need to do is lift up on the little yellow handle here and pull the cassette towards you. Once you've got it to this point, you'll then be able to take it all the way out and you can go ahead and empty it. Really straightforward. All you need to do to empty it out is take this yellow cap off just here. And when you're actually emptying it out, you should hold down this little yellow button at the back. Once you've emptied that out, you can then push this all the way back in until you hear that click. And that then means that it's locked back in position. The flush on here is a freshwater flush, which is why you've got this little pipe here on the left-hand side. So that means that you haven't got any separate flush fluids or anything like that to worry about keeping topped up. So as long as you've got some water in your freshwater tank, you'll be able to flush the toilet. I will also just mention that every single one of these little rubber seals around all of these locker doors, I did go around on the habitation check and use the silicone lubricant on all of those just to keep them nice and stop them from drying out basically. So that is another good thing to remember. If you wanted to do that, get yourself a nice can of silicone lubricant, and then that's what you would need to sort of keep your lockers topped up Sorry, not top tab, but keep them from drying out. All of the rubber seals, even these little ones here on the external water point. So, as I say, external water point here. So if you wanted to use that external shower hose that I showed you inside that door, you literally plug it into this little point here and twist it where it says. So you've got off, cold, and then hot, and that'll then allow you to use that water from there. Really, really straightforward on that one. Behind the door is our freshwater filling point. So, as I mentioned earlier, you have got that little orange adapter which can go into here, and you'll be able to fill it up just like that. Or you can plug a hose into here straight down the actual hole. It's completely up to you how you want to do it, really. But that is that. I'll have to put this back on properly in a minute. Oh no, there you go. Right, so the door itself, when you open this up, you'll notice at the top you've got a sort of a latch here that holds the door in place. So that is now in there. On the actual door itself, you've got a bin up here at the top and a couple of these sort of hook parts that you can hold things into if you want to. So I'll just briefly show you through the cab as well. There's not a huge amount to run through in the cab, I'll be honest. But you have got a couple of options that you need to know about. So you got your bonnet release handle just down here above the clutch pedal. The steering column adjustments are just here above the accelerator pedal. You've got the electric windows and the electric adjusting mirrors from this little switch just here. Inside the actual cab itself, you have got a really, really nice modern Pioneer head unit. So the original ones of these are a single DIN size, but obviously this one's on the adapter to fit into the single DIN socket, but it gives you a double DIN sized screen, which is really nice. As I said, the reversing camera will just turn itself on when you select reverse, which is another thing which is nice. So you don't have to do anything with that in order to sort of select the reversing camera to come on. You've got the matching Pioneer speakers just up there as well, which has been fitted nicely. So yeah, I mean, everything's been sort of done. You shouldn't have to do anything else with that. But yeah, there you go. You've obviously got the original sort of heater controls just down here as well, and your hazard warning lights just from there in the middle. Both of the front seats are swiveling seats, so you've got these little orange handles here, which when you pull on them, you pull them towards me, it will then allow you to twist the seats around. Really, really easy. But that's about it. So I will jump into the back of the van and I'll run you through what we've got going on in here. So first things first, I'll just run you through briefly the layout. So as I said, both of these front seats will swivel round if you want them to. And obviously then that makes it into quite a nice little sort of lounge area. This table here is on a swivel, so you can have this right here in the middle if you want to have two side passengers, and obviously these front seats all the way around, making it a really nice lounge area. Just put that skylight away. Yeah, so the front seats, really nice and comfortable. They're the original seats and the original sort of colour fabric. Absolutely loads of storage space in these cupboards here. You've got a TV section just here, so if you're going to have a telly, that's probably where you would put it. So yeah, that's the brief layout. Underneath this seat just here is where your freshwater tank sits. And it also means that when you take these cushions off and get to that, the freshwater drain is just down the back of the tank. So there's just a little tiny valve, open that up, and all your fresh water will come out. Alternatively, if you don't want to do that, you can obviously just draw all the water through the taps, and then you'll just be able to drain it out through the waste tank. So it's entirely up to you how you want to do that. My other recommendation would be, I mean, these tanks are about, 80 to 100 litres in size. So you should have a pretty good idea of when they're getting to the sort of full mark. On the other side just here, you've got slightly more important things to run through here. So I'll just show you these. I'll take these cushions out of the way, and then I'll just show you that you can take that out there, pop it over, and that'll sit up nicely like that. So down here, if I just zoom in a touch, We've got your leisure battery, which is this one here with the two, the blue and red terminals on. So that's your leisure battery for the vehicle. And obviously you can get bigger versions of this. If you wanted to get a nice big leisure battery, you can do. So towards the back there, the big white box that you can see there is your electric hookup point. Now I'm going to run through something that isn't something that you would normally have on every motorhome. So at some point in this vehicle's life, it's had a nice big inverter sort of setup fitted to it. So I'm going to run you through how all this works. But basically this is your electric hookup point just here. This is the back of the actual inlet for the mains hookup. Next door to it just here is your, that's the one for your external mains point. And so the way that this system works is really simple once you've actually got your head around it, but it did take me a minute to sort of understand how it's all been wired in. So when you plug the hookup cable in, the power from this hookup goes directly into this inverter. So you've got a socket just there, which basically the one at the top there, the black one, comes straight from this hookup point and goes straight into there. So when you plug the hookup cable in, essentially the mains power is still powering all the sockets, but you do need to make sure that you have this switch here turned on. If you don't put that switch on, the power that comes from the electric hookup point won't be sent in to the inverter, so you won't then be able to use any of the sockets. So basically, in other words, all of the sockets are powered from this inverter, so you do need to have the switch turned on, but when you have the hookup cable plugged in, the hookup takes over and powers that. So what I'm trying to say is when you're using the sockets with the inverter on, if the hookup's plugged in, you're not going to be using up all of your power from the leisure battery. If I was to do what I've done now and turn the inverter on without the hookup cable plugged in, and then I wanted to use some sockets, they would still all work, but I would then be using power from this leisure battery. So in my opinion, and the way that you should use it, is that if you can have the hookup cable plugged in, I would always recommend to do it so that you don't need to worry about your leisure battery's voltage. But if you are wild camping, you can obviously use the inverter whenever you want, as long as you keep your eye on the leisure battery's voltage, which I'll show you how to check in just a minute. So hopefully that made sense. The other thing to point out is that you have got this little switch just here on the back of the inlet, so the one that says mains charger on it. Now the mains charger is this black box over here, and basically as long as you put the hookup cable in and you've got that mains charger switch turned on over there, this mains charger will also be on and it will be charging up your leisure battery at the same time. So in short, just in case it was a bit sort of much to take in all at once, if you want to use your main sockets around the vehicle, so any of these three pin sockets, you have to have this switch turned on regardless of whether the hookup's in or not, and then they will work. When you turn this off, all the sockets will go dead regardless of the hookup being in, so you need to make sure that switch is turned on. Other than that, this area here, you've got your solar controller over here on the right. You don't have to do anything with that. That's purely just doing its own thing and trickling away as we speak. And we've got a main battery isolator switch here as well, which you can use if you're going to be leaving the vehicle for a long time and you didn't want to, if you didn't want the leisure battery to drain out for any reason, you can turn this switch off. Other than that, that is it for this locker. It is just all kind of electrical stuff over here, and then your water stuff is over on the other side, as I said. So I'll put that back down in just a minute. So the first thing I'll run you through, other than pointing these things out to you, is going to be the control panel here. So the control panel itself is very, very simple. These McLouis are so easy to use. So you've basically got a main power switch over here on the left. So you've got in, out, so that's your internal lights and external lights. So when I press the external lights button, I did notice that you've got a nice little light on the front of the step, so you can see where the step is, and that'll then be your sort of entry light just there, so you can see where you're going straight away. The internal lights, as you can probably imagine, will turn on the internal lights. Very simple. Right, the next switch over is our water pump. So if I just allow that to pressurize, Okay, so essentially what happened there, because you've got an inline pump, when I turned the water pump switch on just there, it wasn't at 100% pressure. So what the water pump did was it turned itself on for a minute and then got to pressure and turned itself off. So that's exactly what you want to happen when you come into the vehicle. So that's how an inline pump works. If you find that you turn the water pump switch on and the pump just runs on and runs on and runs on and it won't turn off, it means one of a few things. It could mean that you've not got enough water in the tank, which then obviously you just put some more in. It could mean that you've got a leak somewhere in the entire water system, which is unlikely because I've just done a hab check, but possible. But the most likely reason for the water pump running on and running on is that the boiler isn't full of water yet. So I'm going to show you briefly. The boiler itself sits in this locker down here. All right, so this is the actual boiler itself, just down here, this big black unit here at the bottom of the wardrobe. The most important part for you to know about this boiler is this little box over here on the left. I know it's a little bit dark, but you can see there you've got a little red pulley, which has currently got a little cable wrapped around it, but that's just by accident really. So that little red part there is your boiler drain off point. So that's an auto drain off point. So basically what that means is if the boiler itself gets down to about 3 or 4 degrees, that little valve there will drop out by pushing itself down, and it will drain all of the water out from inside the boiler. So what it means is that you're sort of, it's protecting your boiler from freezing up and creating leaks. So that's a really good thing. Obviously that's going to stop you from being able to, it'll stop you from forgetting basically to drain the boiler out in the winter. The only thing I would say about it is that because it is an auto one, people do find sometimes that if their batteries get a little bit low, that little thing there can pop itself down because it works on battery power. So if you find one day that, if you find that you turn the water pump switch on and you're just getting loads of water coming out under the van, under this sort of boiler area, then it probably means that the boiler drain's dropped itself down, and all you need to do is lift it back up. Once you've lifted it back up, allow the water to pressurize itself back up again, and you'll then be able to use the tap as you want to normally. But basically that's the idea behind that. That's the boiler drain just down there. So in a normal day-to-day circumstance, when you turn the water pump switch on just there, it will do exactly what it's just done there, where it just sort of ran for a few seconds, got rid of any last bits of air, and then turned itself off. That's perfect. The other thing I would say, I didn't mean to sort of scare you about the kind of leaks thing, but if you did have a leak somewhere, you would know about it pretty quickly, because the pump would be on, off, on, off, on, off, as it's kind of getting itself to pressure, turning off, turning back on when it loses pressure, turning off. So you'll know about it by the fact that it'll be running itself in and out, in and out. So there is that as well. So it's not something to worry about. So the next thing over here, so these bits over on the right hand side of this control panel, you've essentially got a little button here on the right. When you press that button once, it comes up with a little light above this caravan symbol. So that is now showing us our leisure batteries voltage. Now the reason it's a little bit low is because, first of all, we haven't got the hookup cable plugged in, so there's no battery charging going on whatsoever. There's absolutely no mains battery charging going into that leisure battery. Second thing, we've got all of the lights on inside the vehicle, so that's going to be drawing power anyway. And the third thing is that the solar panel up on the roof isn't getting any power because we are inside. Okay, so that's why the leisure battery is showing a little bit low. So it's a good example really, because that is something you're going to have to do all the time. I don't mean all the time, obviously, but you're going to go to it every now and again, and you'll just press that button and just have a little look. Just basically make sure that it's not down in the red. If it does go down into the red, again, it's nothing to worry about. It just means that you need to, if I put it simply, you need to charge the battery back up. So it either means you need to plug the hookup cable into it for a little while. You can also start the engine up. That will put a bit of charge down into that battery there as well. But as I say, purely and simply, it just means that it needs a bit of charging going back into it. When you get back outside, so if you're at a normal campsite and you're outside, the solar panel will be doing its job as well, so you will have that additional power going in. So in an ideal world, you won't be going down into that red at all, because really that solar panel should be putting enough power into it anyway. But you know, that's it. That's just basically press that button there, and that will just allow you to see the battery voltage there. If you press it again, it will then come up with a little light here next to the engine side of it, and that's showing us your engine battery voltage, which is a little bit higher because that's not actually being used for anything at all at the moment. It's just sitting there being unused, because it's the leisure battery here that powers the lights and everything else really. The one on the right just here is our freshwater level indicator. So that's down there in the reserve at the moment. It is pretty low, so but yeah, that's it really. If you had the electric hookup plugged in, you would have a little symbol up here come on telling you that the battery charger is working. And if your waste tank was completely and utterly full and needed draining out, you'd have a little light come up in here. But other than that, that's the control panel. Really simple to use. So once you've got the freshwater pump turned on, we will be able to use either of our taps just here. So these two here, these smaller ones, are just little soap dispensers that the previous owner has fitted, which you can get to by taking this little cupboard out here. The other two are two different sort of taps really. So you've got a filtered tap here, or you've got a normal tap. So you've got hot and cold on this one. So I'll just allow that to come through, make sure there's no air on the cold and on the hot side. And switch it off. Make sure the pump turns itself back off, which it did. And that's it. That's how you pressurize the system, making sure that there's no air in the system, and you know, just making sure that you're ready to go basically. So once you've done that, you will then be able to go ahead and use the boiler however you want to. So basically the most important part of this entire video is just to make sure that your boiler is full of water before you use it, and also to make sure that it's drained out for the winter. So purely and simply, to check that it's full of water, you're just going to draw the water through the tap on the hot side, and if the water comes through like it did just then with no air and it's not coughing and sputtering and going all over the place, that's it, it's full. That's all you need to know really. It's as simple as that. So once you've done that, you can go ahead and use the boiler however you want to. So you've got on the boiler itself, you've got this little switch here. This switch here to the right of it, by the way, doesn't do anything at all. In fact, it's not wired in to anything. And to be completely and utterly honest with you, I have no idea why it's there. It was probably fitted as a light switch at some point, but it certainly doesn't do anything now. So the boiler itself, you've got heating, you've got hot water, or you've got both at the same time. So if you want to go up once or twice, you've got hot water only, and that's either on 40 or 60 degrees. So that's if you're, you know, if it's summertime and you want just the hot water, you don't want the heating to come on, you would go up once or twice. Back to the middle, turns the boiler off completely. If I go down once, that's our winter setting, and that's if we want heating only. And if I go down twice, we've got heating and hot water. So anytime that your little orange symbol is on in here as well, alongside the green one, it means that the water is heating up. So that's why it goes off when we just select the heating one. You will hear that noise that you probably just heard there, which is just it's just a solenoid allowing the gas to come through to the boiler, and it will light up, which it has done. You've got a little tiny thermostat just up here to the right of this door, which is the thermostat for the heater. So basically you've got a temperature stat inside here. Obviously it's not saying about 1 to 9 degrees, but basically you need to turn it up as and when you need to. If you find that it turns itself off before it gets hot enough, just turn that number up a little bit and it will carry on. So back to the middle, turns the entire boiler off, and that is it. Really simple. Right, got loads of storage in all of the overhead lockers. Right, so this is a 3-burner hob. So this is where you heat your cooking area is, basically. Each one of these has got its own ignition, but I will say that on the habitation check, I had to clean all of the burners out because none of them were burning very well. I cleaned them out, put them all back together, but the ignition is very, very, very slow. So, okay. So the reason that, well, it's slow because they're a little bit old, to be completely honest with you. But on the habitation check, I did write down, I would recommend using one of the long reach lighters to light any three of these up. And I just wanted to say that it's not me being sort of lazy and not taking it apart and fixing it. It's just that these can turn into a really, really big job for something that, to be completely honest, I would want to be using a long reach lighter anyway, because it is just so much easier to just light these up, you know, with one of those than waiting for the ignition, which can sometimes, you know, allow that gas to just sort of pop and kind of get in your face a little bit, which I don't really like particularly. So it's just something that I would recommend. You don't have to do that. They will still work eventually, but I don't like the fact that the amount of gas that comes through before they light up. So I would recommend using a long reach lighter, and I will supply you with one so that you've got it. But anyway, right, so cooker just there. Underneath that, we've got the 12-volt fridge. So this fridge is so good. It gets so cold and so quick. You've got a little switch at the back just there, which you can probably see if I zoom in a touch more. You can see there you've got an off switch, which is where it is at the moment. And then you've literally just got a dial that turns around from minimum to maximum. So minimum being the warmest, if you like, and then maximum being the coldest. So you can adjust that as and when you need to. The only thing I would say about it is that being a 12-volt fridge, they do use quite a lot of power. So it might seem a little bit counterintuitive, but if you are able to have a hookup cable plugged in, I would 100% recommend having it plugged in whilst using that fridge. If you are to use that fridge for too long just on the 12-volt, it will run your leisure battery down, and you will have to keep on doing something to keep it topped up. So I would recommend using it on hookup as much as you physically can. The fridge will work whilst you're driving as well, so that will keep it topped up whilst you're driving, but yeah, there you go. So, as I said, on the outside, you've got this really good, nice big transverse bed area up here. Absolutely massive and probably quite expensive Silent Night mattress, which is already in there, which is always a good thing. A couple of windows back here. I have also noted, just so that you're aware, I have noted on the habitation sheet that you've got a couple of little cracks coming on the inside pane of these double glazed windows. Now, the reason I had to mention that is because obviously they're there and I didn't want to sort of brush by that, but I did check that it doesn't let any water in, and it doesn't. It's purely just the inside pane of glass. The outside panes are all fine. So, yeah, there you go. Just pointing that out. Right, so the bathroom is probably the last thing to run you through. Very, very nice and simple bathroom, to be honest. You've got a light switch up here, which will turn these lights on up here above the mirror. The toilet is normally the only part that I actually sort of run through, to be honest. So the toilet itself, you've got a blue button at the back just there, which will pump around your flush fluid from the water pump. And then you've got a drain just here. So you pull this to the right, and that will allow whatever's in there to go into the cassette. And then you just pull the handle back. And that's honestly it. That's all you have to do. As for the rest of it, it's literally just a hot and cold tap there for the shower. And the same again for the sink, hot and cold tap there. You've got a skylight at the top just there as well, which is working nicely. And obviously your shower curtain goes around on this little circular part here. So I think I've covered everything. I don't think there's much else that I can sort of talk about, to be honest. But if you think there's anything else that I've missed out or anything you want going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.